don't become mentally strong during the easy days. Anyone can project confidence when life is smooth. Anyone can believe in themselves when the plan is working and the sun is shining. The real test happens when everything goes wrong. It happens when your plans collapse, when your peers doubt you, and when the results refuse to show up after months of grueling effort. It rises when things feel good and vanishes the moment life becomes uncomfortable. A strong mind is built on something far more reliable: consistency. It is the ability to continue even when your own mind argues against you. Think of your mind like a muscle. The first time you face extreme discomfort, it feels overwhelming. Failure feels like a personal indictment. Criticism feels unbearable. Doubt feels like a paralyzing weight. But a strange transformation occurs when you repeatedly expose yourself to difficulty. You adapt. Each time the metal is struck, its internal structure changes. It becomes denser and more resilient. Your mind works exactly the same way. Every hardship is a strike of the hammer. Every setback is the heat of the forge. Each time you endure, your mental structure shifts. Weakness doesn't usually appear in a dramatic explosion. It shows up quietly in small, private moments. It's the moment you decide to postpone something vital. It's the moment you tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. It's the moment you allow a flicker of doubt to dictate a major decision. These moments seem insignificant in isolation, but over time, they shape your identity. It is exposure. They have trained their minds to tolerate discomfort. They have spent years confronting difficulty instead of sprinting away from it. When pressure appears, their mind recognizes the environment and stays steady. Imagine two people standing in a torrential rainstorm. One has never experienced a storm before. To them, the wind and rain feel like a threat. The other has lived through hundreds of them. To them, the storm feels familiar. The weather hasn't changed, but the internal reaction has. This is what mental resilience really is: a deep familiarity with adversity. There is a common misunderstanding about mental strength. People think it means you never feel doubt. That isn't true. Even the strongest minds experience fear. They feel uncertainty and exhaustion. The difference is that they don't obey those emotions. They observe them and continue moving regardless. Think about a mountain. Storms strike it constantly with wind, rain, and snow. Yet the mountain remains. It doesn't stay because the storm stopped. It stays because its foundation is solid. A stable mind operates on the same principle. When your values are clear and your discipline is rooted, external pressure cannot move you. Many people spend their entire lives trying to curate a life of absolute comfort. They structure their world around safety, convenience, and ease. But that strategy is a trap. It weakens the mind because the mind only grows through resistance. Just as a physical muscle requires tension to expand, the mind requires challenges to develop. Look at how people react to failure. Some see failure as proof of their inadequacy. Others see it as pure information. The first group collapses under the weight of an ego bruise. The second group adapts. A resilient mind treats a setback like data. Something didn't work. Good. Modern life trains us to expect immediate gratification. We want the success, the recognition, and the results right now. But the strongest minds understand that real progress is often invisible for a long time. They focus on the process rather than the applause. Applause is temporary and fickle, but growth is permanent. But those who continue eventually reach a tipping point where the skill becomes fluid and effortless. What looked impossible before becomes routine. This transformation isn't a miracle. It is the result of hundreds of small, boring efforts accumulated over time. Each repetition builds a layer of confidence. The real goal isn't perfection or invulnerability. It is resilience. It's the ability to stand back up after a hit. It's the capacity to stay calm in the fog of uncertainty. A powerful mind is not one that never struggles. It is one that refuses to surrender to the struggle. It acknowledges the challenge, learns the lesson, and keeps moving. This isn't something you're born with. It is something you build through the repeated decision to continue when quitting would be the easier path. There is another trait that defines a durable mind: distance. This is the ability to step back from your own emotions. But the player in the middle of the board often feels overwhelmed by the immediate threat. A strong mind learns to step outside the board. Instead of reacting instantly to every spark of anger or doubt, it observes. Observation creates space, and in that space, wiser decisions are made. Consider how sailors navigate a rough ocean. When a storm hits, they don't panic and steer wildly into the waves. They adjust the sails, they stabilize the ship. A reckless reaction would flip the vessel, but a measured response keeps it afloat. Your mind is that ship. Storms of emotion will always arrive, but the goal isn't to stop the weather. The goal is to navigate the storm without losing your direction. A criticism feels personal and permanent, but you must train yourself to zoom out. Imagine looking at your life from 10 years in the future. Will today's setback still matter? Usually, the answer is no. Strong minds see events in context. They remember that a single bad day does not define a life. Think about a tree growing in a windy field. The constant pressure of the wind forces it to develop deeper, stronger roots. A tree grown in a perfect, sheltered greenhouse might grow tall quickly, but the first real storm will snap it in half. Hard environments create flexibility and resilience. Your mind grows stronger in the same conditions. Adversity is what strengthens your roots. Another vital lesson is restraint. An untrained mind reacts immediately to everything. Someone criticizes you and you become defensive. Something goes wrong and you panic. But a disciplined mind understands the power of the pause. Restraint is a form of power that prevents you from leaking energy on things that don't matter. There is also the habit of preparation. People with strong minds rarely rely on luck. They prepare. Athletes rehearse movements thousands of times before the game. Pilots train for emergencies they may never face. Familiarity reduces fear. When you have prepared for the difficult scenarios, your mind recognizes them when they appear. Familiarity breeds confidence, while ignorance breeds panic. Look at a master craftsman. He doesn't rush. He measures carefully and cuts precisely because he knows one careless move can ruin the entire structure. Your thoughts are the tools that shape your life. Careless thinking leads to careless decisions. Disciplined thinking builds stable outcomes. Solitude also plays a role. When you are constantly surrounded by noise and the opinions of others, your own judgment becomes clouded. Solitude removes that noise. It allows the mind to organize itself and find clarity. But the speed of your recovery is what determines your success. Two runners trip in a race. One stays down to complain, while the other is back on their feet in a second. They both fell, but only one lost the race because of the fall. Finally, understand that your mind is shaped by repetition. The thoughts you practice are the thoughts you will eventually believe. If you repeat doubt, doubt becomes your default setting. If you practice discipline, discipline becomes your instinct. Mental strength is not a mystery. It is a habit reinforced over time. The strongest minds are not dramatic. They are steady, like a lighthouse on a rocky coast. The waves crash against it day after day. The storms surround it. But the light continues to shine because the structure was built to endure. The mind that learns to endure becomes something remarkable. It becomes stable enough to move forward no matter what weather arrives. A resilient mind also values simplicity. Most people overcomplicate their problems. They build elaborate stories around a single setback. One failure becomes proof that they are a failure. One mistake becomes a permanent label. A strong mind strips the story away. A mistake is just feedback. A delay is just a delay. When you remove the unnecessary drama, your problems shrink back to their real size. Stop waiting for a guarantee. Many people stay frozen because they want to know the result before they begin. But life doesn't work that way. Progress belongs to those who act despite the uncertainty. Waiting for perfect assurance is a recipe for stagnation. Courage is moving forward when you don't have the map. One disciplined action might seem small today, but repeated daily, those actions form a structure strong enough to support the heaviest challenges. It's the patience of a farmer who plants the seeds and trusts the season. You cannot rush the harvest of your own growth. Take full responsibility for your life. When you accept that you are the one in control of your reactions and your habits, you gain the power to change them. Responsibility is not a weight, it is the key to your freedom. Build a quiet confidence, not a loud ego. Trust your preparation, trust your discipline, trust that you will adapt to whatever happens next. Your mind is a fortress. It was built carefully, one decision at a time, one challenge at a time. Now, stand firm and keep moving.